your career history?
Hello, my name is Ed McMahon, like the famous guy. I am elementary school counselor. I've been here at the elementary school for approximately 5 years. I've done 4 years at the middle school and 2 years as a career counselor in the same district.
What grade levels do you service?
Pre-K through 5th grade.
What is the school counselor-student ratio?
We have about here, I'm the only school counselor in this building, and we have approximately about 570 students, so it's above the average here. What steps have I taken? I think it's important to work as a team. I'm surrounded by good people.
What is your current job description?
I don't know if I'm the typical guidance counselor per se, job duties, but I do a variety of everything. I wear many hats, and I'm not a master of anything. I just do a lot of stuff. So, I do individual brief counseling. I do group counseling at times. I do, behavior, contracts, behavior interventions. I'm the PSSA testing coordinator here at the elementary school. The list goes on and on, but I do a variety of different things.
Do your duties relate to the ASCA?
Duties I have that go along with that. I obviously is the social aspect of it, the personal aspect for the kids, meeting with them, talking about character ed, individually, with grades and organization, socially, talked about that. Just having them, helping them grow individually. I do all that stuff.
How do you utilize your time?
Well, I feel like I put a lot of fires out. I probably would have to say that's 30% of my day. I would say 10-15%, maybe 20% individual. About 10%, the minimum amount as possible of paperwork. There is paperwork, but I try not to let that interfere. It depends on the time of the year too. With PSSA time, that takes a big chunk of my time. Academic concerns, 20%. It's hard to say, but it all works out.
Do you have a vision, a mission statement?
Yes, I do.
What are your goals for attendance, achievements, and discipline?
Yeah, I started it last year. I did the core value. We do a core value program here, and again, that's the social aspect, character ed, teaching all the students the different character ed principles. So that's one of my main things that I'm working on these last couple of years. So,
What kind of lesson and topics do you do with your students?
We do Obeas bullying prevention here, and the classes do meet once a week, and a variety of different topics. Again, and we're trying to infuse character ed, and obviously the whole bullying aspect of that, but trying to focus more on the positive aspects of character ed and what that looks like and what that sounds like and how to treat other people.
Do you maintain a weekly or monthly calendar?
I do. I try to keep it. It's always in pencil because it always changes. It seems like, but I try to stick to it. And of course, things out of the ordinary do pop up every so often. So we have to. It's always being changed. It's always flexible. So, but I try to. Yes.
What topics do you discuss in small groups?
We've done anger groups. Some divorce groups, self-esteem groups, some girl relational aggression groups.
Do you maintain data in your program?
With the core value program I just mentioned that we're doing school-wide, I do hand out, every student gets a core value discussion sheet that they are to take home and discuss. There's prompts on there to discuss with their family, and they're to answer these questions. So the data that I'm still gathering the data now, but obviously looking for participation and getting families involved and the conversations about honesty or respect, whatever the core value is for that month. So I am collecting data. It's in the process I'm in the process of collecting all that now.
Do you see any new trends?
Well, I don't know about new and emerging, but there's so many of them. Careers, that's a big thing that we're in the process of. We have been doing it, but we're always looking to look for something different, something new, and how we want to do things.
Mr. McNulty, please call the office.
You've been asked to use discipline issues.
Like I said earlier, I do a variety of different things here. So I do handle discipline at times, and the good thing about being a counselor is I can incorporate that how to process things, role plays, and that within the discipline kind of process. But like I said earlier, we all work as a team. We have a lot of students here, so we all work together to accomplish the same goal.
What is the joy and stress of your job?
Well, I love my job. I love that it's different every day. Being able to help the kids. That's my primary joy. That's why I come to work every day. There's just normal stresses. Trying to do what's right, figuring out different things. That's why it's good to bounce things off other people.
What are some things you do to not get burned out?
Well, I think the biggest thing I learned at a young age is to leave work at work. When I leave this building, it stays here, so I don't bring it home with me.
What are the skills for this job?
Well, obviously you have to be empathetic, sympathetic. You have to be a good listener. You have to be able to communicate. All those intangibles are very important in this job.
Mr. Ewings, call the office, please.
Wait, do you want me to say that?
Yep.
What's the most challenging part about your job?
Other than this interview, not just kidding. What's the most challenging situation you faced as a school counselor?
The most challenging thing, I don't know. There's many little challenges, but the biggest challenge, that's a good question. I think as a school counselor, some of my challenging situations are the ones that go beyond school and that affect the children emotionally or physically. Those where other agencies have to be involved, OCY and things like that. Those are the challenging ones because you do everything that you can, and hopefully whoever takes over the situation does the right things.
For middle school, what tips would you provide?
For middle school, what tips would you provide?
I was over at the middle school. I didn't really have, I never really dealt with any of these problems. But again, being a good listener, and you can't tell the kids or anybody what to do. But being a good listener and supporting them, obviously knowing your boundaries and being ethically sound.
For elementary, what tips would you provide?
When you talk about abuse, that's a touchy situation, and you just be sympathetic, all those things, all those intangibles that we talked about earlier, and work closely with whoever else is involved to be on the same page with what's going on.
Do you want to answer that phone?
I probably should.
Any words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom, I would say, this is a great field in the education profession. It's words of, if it's something you really want to do, make sure you give it 100%, because every day is 100% here. Just like with any other profession, but you got to keep going forward, and knowing what you're doing is making a difference.
Please describe your reactions in interviewing this particular counselor. Are there any differences between what they actually do and what is required of the ASCA?
I think the counselor kept it pretty vanilla. He didn't really go into great detail of all the things he does. I believe when you get schooling, sometimes what they teach you at the school, when you get to your regular job, you have to change what you've learned in order to survive.
If yes, what are them differences?
I believe that the most important thing is the real life counseling issues that are faced. he talked about that paperwork wasn't really something that was in his I must get done. And even when we were doing the interview, you could hear that, you know, he was being called over the PA, his phone was ringing, so his day changes constantly. And I like that he said that when he makes his schedule, he pencils things in because there's so much change.
There are differences between ASCA recommendations and the program of the counselor you interview. What are your explanations for those reasons why?
I think it's important for a young counselor who has not been in a school system to follow the ASCA, but also they need to follow what their principal and their administration tell them to do. I've been in the school system now for 20 years, and it would be a lot easier for me to tell my supervisor, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm not as fearful of losing my job. Someone that's maybe just starting out would jump through hoops and do whatever's asked of them because they want to keep their job.
If there are not differences between ASCA recommendations and the program of the counselor you interview, what skills does this counselor have?
I think Mr. McMahon is a very people-friendly person. He doesn't act or come off as arrogant and knows everything. He is there for the students, he's there for the teachers, and he's there for the administration. I think he does the best he can do with what he has to work with.
What will you take from this interview and incorporate into your own school counseling program?
What I took from this was, this is incredibly hard. It's not as easy as just going in your room, answering a few phone calls, sending out a few emails, and helping a kid tie his shoes. You have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to leave your emotions at the door.